Choosing Peace. Chapter 11. You are not who you were. Owning your growth without apology. People can change. Life does get better. And the guilt fades when you keep choosing yourself consistently. There is something I want the people in my life to understand. Not the people who have grown alongside me. Not the ones who have watched the shift happen and celebrated it with me. But the ones who knew the old version and are not quite sure what to make of the new one. I want them to understand that people can change. That the person I was 4 years ago, stressed, reactive, running on empty, tying worth to productivity, giving everything to everyone except myself, was not the finished version of me. That person was doing their best with what they had at the time. But that person was also quietly disappearing. Nobody is perfect. Nobody arrives at peace without stumbling on the way. But as long as a person keeps working on what they can control, keeps choosing their peace over drama, over complainers, over the things that drain without giving anything back, life does get better. The guilt fades. The peace grows. And the person who comes out the other side is more genuinely available to the people they love than the depleted version ever was. That is what I want people to understand. And that is what this chapter is for. You are allowed to be different now. One of the quiet challenges of personal growth is that not everyone around you grows at the same time or in the same direction. While you have been building new habits, new mindsets, new ways of protecting your energy and showing up for yourself, the people around you have been living the version of you they already knew. And when you show up differently, it can unsettle them. Not because your change is wrong, but because it is unfamiliar. You might hear things like "you have changed" said as though it is an accusation. As though changing is a betrayal of who you used to be. As though the person you were before was the real you and this calmer, more boundaries, more intentional version is somehow less authentic. Let me say this clearly. Growing is not a betrayal of who you were. It is the fulfillment of who you were always capable of becoming. You are allowed to be different now. You are allowed to want different things, respond differently, need different things, and show up in ways that reflect where you are rather than where you have been. That is not losing yourself. That is finally finding yourself. What growth actually looks like from the inside. From the outside, growth can look clean and linear. One day the person was struggling, now they are at peace. Simple. From the inside it rarely feels that way. It feels like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. It feels like a good week followed by a hard day that makes you wonder if any of it stuck. It feels like choosing your peace clearly one moment and getting pulled back into an old pattern the next and having to start again. It feels like still having the guilt sometimes even when you know better. Like still having the reaction sometimes even when you have the tools. Like still being human even while you are doing the work of becoming a more intentional one. This is not failure. This is what growth actually looks like from the inside. Messy and nonlinear and real. The measure of your growth is not whether you ever slip. It is how quickly you return to yourself after you do. And that return time gets shorter the longer you practice. You do not need validation from the people who knew the old you. Here is something worth sitting with honestly. Some of the people who knew the old you are more comfortable with that version. The one who was easier to access, easier to pull into drama, easier to lean on without limit. That version required less from them because it asked nothing for itself. The new version has limits, has needs, has a peace it protects. And that can feel like rejection to people who were used to having unlimited access. You do not need their approval to continue growing. You do not need them to understand your journey in order for your journey to be valid. You do not need anyone who benefited from your depletion to celebrate your restoration. Their confusion or discomfort with your growth is information about where they are, not a verdict on where you are going. Your growth does not require anyone's permission. It only requires your consistency. Choosing you is not choosing against others. This is the misunderstanding worth addressing one more time, because it tends to persist even as the work deepens. Choosing yourself over drama is not choosing against the people in the drama. It is choosing not to participate in something that costs you and changes nothing. Choosing yourself over complainers is not choosing against the complainers. It is choosing not to absorb what they are putting out when absorbing it helps neither of you. Choosing yourself over drainers is not choosing against the drainers. It is choosing to protect something precious so that when you do show up for the people who genuinely need you, you actually have something to give. Every time you choose your peace, you are not building a wall between yourself and others. You are building a foundation that makes genuine connection possible. The kind of connection that comes from fullness rather than obligation. From presence rather than performance. From a person who is actually here rather than one who is going through the motions while quietly falling apart. Choosing you is one of the most generous things you can do. Because the version of you that has peace is the version that can truly love, truly give, and truly be there for the people who matter. To the people who only knew the old you. If there are people in your life who are struggling to understand your shift, here is what you might want them to know. The person you are becoming is not rejecting you. They are returning to themselves. And a person who has returned to themselves is actually more capable of genuine relationship than one who is giving everything away while secretly disappearing. The change you are seeing is not coldness. It is groundedness. It is not distance. It is discernment. It is not selfishness. It is self-preservation that ultimately makes space for something more real between us. You do not have to understand it right now. You do not have to approve of it. But if you stay, if you give the new version a chance, you will find that what you get back is more honest, more present, and more genuinely caring than what you had before. Real relationships can hold this kind of change. The ones that cannot were always more about access than about love. Owning your growth without shrinking. One of the patterns worth watching in yourself as you grow is the tendency to shrink your progress around people who have not made the same shift. To downplay how good you feel because others around you are still struggling. To pull back on your peace so it does not make anyone uncomfortable. To pretend you are still the old version because the new one creates friction in certain relationships. You are allowed to own your growth fully. Not in a way that is boastful or dismissive of others, but in a way that is honest and unashamed. You did the work. You made the choices. You kept going when it was hard and uncomfortable and uncertain. That is real and it belongs to you. Being at peace is not something to hide. A person who has found their way to genuine groundedness is not a threat to the people around them. They are a quiet invitation. An example of what is possible. A reminder that change is real and that life genuinely can get better. Own it. All of it. The stumbles and the progress, the hard days and the better ones, the version you were and the one you are becoming. That whole story is yours and it is worth telling. The guilt that fades. Let us come back to something important because it is the thread that has run through this entire book. The guilt. The guilt for resting. The guilt for saying no. The guilt for stepping back from drama. The guilt for protecting your energy from people who drain it. The guilt for choosing yourself when the old version would have chosen everyone else first. That guilt does not disappear overnight. But here is what consistent practice reveals over time. Every time you choose your peace and nothing catastrophic happens, the guilt loses a little of its grip. Every time you step back from something draining and you feel better rather than worse, the old narrative weakens. Every time you wake up grateful instead of dreading the day, every time you let something roll off instead of absorbing it, every time you breathe before reacting, you are building evidence against the guilt's central claim. Its central claim is that you do not deserve this. That peace is not for you. That you have to earn rest and justify limits and apologize for needing anything at all. Every day you choose yourself, you are proving that claim wrong. And over time the proof becomes louder than the guilt. The guilt fades. Not all at once. But it fades. And what it leaves behind is you. The real, rested, grounded, peacefully present version of you that was always there waiting. You are not who you were. You are not perfect. You are not finished. But you are choosing yourself. You are choosing peace. You are choosing better. And that is everything. Coming up in Chapter 12. Your peace plan and what comes next. Building the life you have been choosing toward.